Welcome to the Lawrence University Career Center podcast. I'm Ty Collins, and today we are joined by Ryan Aiello from the Lawrence class of 2018. Ryan earned his degree in psychology, and as a student, completed internships with the 95% Group, the Bolt Company, and Mudd and Prince. Upon graduation, he worked for ExxonMobil and Thermo Fisher Scientific. Today, Ryan is a people operations business partner with the Lego Group and joins us to talk about his career in human resources and much more. Thanks for being here, Ryan.
No problem. Happy to be here.
So let's begin with what you're doing right now. What does a people operations business partner do? Tell us about the Lego Group, and as an employee perk, you get free Legos.
Surprisingly, yes. Right off the bat, I'll say we do get quite a few free Legos. Lego bricks, I'm supposed to say by brand.
Good.
My fiance has been telling me I have too many sets, and we have a whole collection going on in the basement right now. Yeah, the 50% employee discount is real. What do I do? I would say it depends on the day. Right now, the role I'm focused in is more of a project management role. So I do quite a few odds and end projects, helping kind of support things as needed. I have three main projects right now. First is I'm helping to onboard our company vehicle vendor. So people that, sales folks that drive around in all the different Lego retail stores have to sell all those bricks. They need a vehicle. So helping them out, as well as another option is our commuter shuttle program. So we have people that are coming in from Connecticut from a very long distance from our old office. So we're offering them a giant tour bus, and just the benefit of commuting that distance, trying to organize that program, working with the vendor, all of that, being kind of in the benefit space is something I'm supporting right now. Separate from that, though, I'm also helping to set up a new site in Tempe, Arizona, and relocate a lot of people. So, how the heck do I get from point A to point B? Make sure workday is right, my paycheck is right, all of that stuff, and just answering any of the jittery questions that it takes moving cross country, as well as closing down our site in Connecticut. It's a difficult role, but as some of the stuff we'll discuss later on in this interview, I think I'm probably one of the best people for that, having been laid off only just about a year ago. So it's a very rewarding role, but you ask what I do on a daily basis, it changes constantly.
So coming out of Lawrence with a degree in psychology, did you think working in the world of human resources would be your path?
No, I'll be honest with that one. Life has a funny way of kind of working itself out. I think that's kind of a cliche a lot of people will say on these podcasts and career discussions. When I first started at Lawrence, I thought I wanted to be a clinical psychologist with a double major in psychology. Very on, I learned that wasn't necessarily for me, pivoted to business, pivoted to marketing. Marketing wasn't for me, had some soul searching, and boom. Now I'm in HR at the Lego Group. It's been quite a journey to get to that point, I'd say.
So I want to talk more about human resources. A lot of students I work with express an interest in it, and I find that they often confuse the term with human services. The two are very different fields. Talk about what human resources actually is.
I admit you actually threw me a curveball. I had to Google human services because I think I know what this means, and it's a fair question. And it goes back to what I just said. I wanted to be a clinical psychologist, but now I'm in the business route. Human services, by my definition, by no means is it right, but a little bit of Google and AI helped, is just like the nonprofit social support. It's more focused. Your end goal is to help people and to have them be successful in individual social settings. So those are going to be your more mission driven people that are passionate on it. It's not necessarily for a business.
Right.
HR, human resources, is to help drive a business be successful. There's many different definitions of HR, but I think if it is the discipline within business that helps support business leaders by effectively managing, developing their employee population. So that's one of the key differences. One thing, though, that flies under the radar a bit is another option, industrial organizational psychology, IO-Psych, if you've ever heard of it. And I think Lawrence is actually kind of adding a little bit more into their program. IO, I would say, is the theory of HR. It's the psychology of business, so to speak. They write the HR textbooks, and then the HR folks like myself are the ones on the ground actually implementing it. So we're less focused on the theory and the stats and more on how do we execute some of those. So human services is more that nonprofit, not necessarily a business route all the time. HR is driving the business, and then IO-Psych is more of that theory side of it, the psychology, the research side of it. But that's just how I define it in my head. Hopefully that answer makes sense to you.
That's exactly what it is. I'm wondering about human resources, if you could clarify a couple of the different roles. There's recruiting, there's compliance, there's payroll, there's benefit administration. Maybe just tell us a little bit about some of those primary responsibilities.
And that's actually one of the reasons I wanted to do HR to Lawrence. I knew marketing wasn't for me. You definitely don't want me managing your finances. So that kind of left HR. And at first I'm like, well, I've never done this. It's too amorphous. It's just talking about feelings and payroll and people crying in your office, right? Part of it may be that, but there's it's a much richer discipline than that. So you hit on some of it. And the way I think about it is the employee life cycle from hire to retire, so to speak. You have recruiting, bringing people in. You have benefits, trying to attract those people, managing the different programs like your health insurance, but things like the 50% employee discount. You have HR business partnering, which is probably the most generalist of the positions. That's the higher level stuff. You're working with the leaders of the organization to execute on their people's strategy. So, where do we open up a new factory? How do we do it? What kind of roles do we hire for? How should we structure our team? Who reports to whom? That's what a business partner will do. You also have employee relations, which is a lot more of those emotions and feelings. Could be anything from, I don't know, someone brought a weapon on site to someone's being mean to me, and just navigating those spaces and how do you resolve that in a compliant, ethical way. There's accommodations, leave of absences, global mobility, moving people around. And then another one, which one of my favorites, a generalist, which is similar to an HR business partner, but to me, it's more of that tactical level. You're on the ground, especially with a small organization, you're doing everything. It's a general role. And I think that's always a really good entry point for anyone interested in HR. So there's areas of HR that are I've never even heard of that always keep popping up. So it's a very rich discipline. So you don't feel like you need to just go down the route of being a business partner or recruiter the rest of your career.
That HR generalist role is, like you said, often the entry point. You don't necessarily have to have a degree in human resources to start there.
From my perspective, as someone that has, in my route is I went and I got a master's degree before I worked a day in HR.
Mhm.
So I did that, and then all of a sudden I was being offered HR manager level roles. That's actually a very common route that people have 0 to 2 years of prior work experience, get a master's degree, and then go to the generalist route. There are people doing the HR generalist role right out of undergraduate. In my opinion, those people that can do that right out of undergrad, they learn so much, and it's a very rewarding job. I will say though, expect it to be more manual because you are starting at that lower level. You're going to be processing payroll. You're going to be the frontline person. You're probably, while a lot of companies are automating things and deferring things to outsourcing stuff, that generalist, entry level generalist, they're going to be like the intern. But the experiences you get in that, you get everything in HR. You get the recruiting experience, you get the employee relations, you get the strategy, compensation analysis, all of that. So it's a really rewarding role. It's a tough role, but it sets you up for success. But that's not the only way. Everyone has their own path. Another one that I see a lot of folks come into, and even a lot of chief HR officers, CHROs, they start recruiting. And that was one of the routes that I was going to go if I didn't get into graduate school. Just being a recruiter is actually a really good entry point into the discipline because you get to understand how jobs work. You get to learn what it's like to deal with different people leaders. You get to understand how to create a job offer, and then you get to understand directly the people that you're working with and bring them on board. So it's a good entry point as well. I hear people start in benefits, people start in the legal team. That's one of the great things about HR. It's not like, my opinion, finance. You get a degree in finance, you get an MBA, and then you work in finance most of your life. It's a
Mhm.
little bit more nuanced than that.
Well, let's talk more about your work. And you've talked about this a little bit already, but what do you find most rewarding about it? What do you consider to be the most difficult part of it? And then for students who are thinking about going this way, what are some things they should know now? What are some things they should be doing now while still a student?
What do I find most rewarding? I think being able to influence the direction of a large organization. A good example is in my last role, I supported a site of roughly 300 to 350 people. I was their HR point of contact. Obviously, we had people behind the scenes, processing payroll and the legal stuff. But at the same time, I was that person that was there making decisions on do we shut down the site for the day because the weather's really bad? We have to push forward this new initiative. How are we going to create an engagement activity, that fund committee? Like, there's all those different things behind the scenes that I'm helping to kind of play. I'm not necessarily the CEO of the organization, but I'm that person right next to them helping support, coach, and guide them. And I think that's a really rewarding experience is that when I first was going into business, I'm like, I don't know if I want to be CEO, but it's a good way of kind of having that authority and responsibility. Another one is helping people directly, which I think ties directly into that is I'll never forget some of the conversations I've had throughout my career where I was able to meet one-on-one with an employee that was really having a tough time. I know one employee that was diagnosed with cancer and is like, I don't know what to do right now. How the heck do I navigate the leave of absence process? What is my paycheck going to look like? Can I afford this? And while I didn't have all the answers, it was, reassuring to know that I could sit down. I cleared out my calendar for the next hour. I'm like, let's talk about this. All right, so you need to fill out this form. The state will do this. This is what you need to do. And I also directed them to our employee support services. And just having the ability to connect with people directly is very rewarding for me. And that's something I truly enjoy. You said challenging, though. And I also mentioned people.
Mhm.
I think it's no surprise that dealing with people can be very draining. It takes a certain type of person to do some of the roles in HR, like a business partner. I'm talking with people constantly. I have the energy for it, I like to think, but it can be draining at times. And when you think about dealing with difficult people, sometimes you'll have some people that I like to think I have thick skin, but can kind of get under your skin sometimes, and it can kind of wear on you. And it can be a lot at times, and that's why it's important to make sure you take time for yourself, especially when you're dealing with employee relations things. You deal with some tough stuff, but at the same time, like I said, you have the authority to make a difference for people. So I really enjoyed that, I'd say. And then the other aspect I'd say that can be kind of challenging is there's a lot you could do, especially in the more generalist or the business partner role. I open up my computer and I have 30 emails, but I only have 7, 8 hours in the day. 7.5 at the Lego group. What do I do? What do I focus on? And at times, I'm not always going to get it right. Sometimes I'm going to knock it out of the park, but it can be overwhelming because there's something I want to do and I think it's necessary, but then there's the stuff I have to do. And trying to juggle and prioritize that can be challenging at times, especially someone that's earlier in their HR career, I'd say.
And the advice you'd have for current students thinking about pursuing a career in HR.
Do something, get experience. For me, when I'm looking at someone's resume, hiring someone, did they take the initiative? Did they go out and do a certification? Did they have a part-time job, no matter what it was? Did they do an internship? Or did they do absolutely nothing but just kind of hang out all summer, maybe just do a nice little easy job, and then all of a sudden they want a job that pays them $150,000 a year? Make yourself valuable. Think about it from your lenses. How are you marketing yourself? Because I have 100 other people right now that could take this job. What makes you unique? And I think that's one of my other points is find your story. What's your passion? I always talk about the elevator speech, right? And the career center. Probably still teaching star stories and stuff. Make sure you have your own brand and that you can bring that to the table and keep trying, I would say. I think it's networking is huge. Interesting enough, I don't think I've really gotten too many of my jobs by networking, so much as just I learned how to speak to people and how to interview from networking. That's what's helped me the most. No one ever said, hey, you should hire Ryan, he's great. Actually, I lied. My first internship was like that. Terry Frankie, Lawrence connection. I owe him everything there in Susan Hall. But more often than not, it's just getting yourself out there, learning how to talk to people and how to sell yourself more than anything. That's the most important thing.
Talking a little bit more about your background, you've worked for three different large worldwide corporations since you graduated back in 2018. Three jobs in 7 years is not uncommon these days. What have you learned about managing your career during that time? And what are some important lessons you've learned? And what are some other interesting nuggets you'd like to share with our students about that?
I'll have to give you my little rant of a story of my background, because I think that would kind of help. When I started Lawrence, I wanted to be a clinical psychologist. I wanted to help people. I loved it, and I still do want to enjoy helping people. But I realized that that wasn't the route for me. It was just when I looked more into it, my passion wasn't there. I didn't see myself in that role, and that came from just networking with people and understanding their day-to-day role. So then I pivoted, and I knew I wanted to do business. And actually, I have Lawrence to thank for that, where I was, gosh, four different student organizations at once I was running. Culture Food Club, I think it's Baking Cooking Club now. It's my baby. I really helped that one along. I wanted to run organizations. I realized that was where my passion was and where I was halfway decent at it. So landed an internship just by pure luck. I ended up in marketing. Thought I wanted to do marketing. I was super passionate on it. I had a few internships that led to a full-time job outside of Lawrence. And I just remember sitting in that role one day, recognizing I don't see myself going anywhere with this role. I'm not happy. I don't know where I want to go. Like, I don't have that long-term vision for what I want. So it took me a lot of strength to just recognize that I got to hit timeout. And so, a piece of nugget of advice, especially when you're early in your career, it's okay to hit timeout. Do that early in your career. You have time to kind of pivot. I just quit that job. I didn't have a plan. And instead, I kind of worked a few odd jobs for a few months and I kind of found myself. I networked again with a lot of people. I talked to Career Center, especially Grace. Shout out to her, but a few other people and old managers too. And I tried to find the path. And that's where I came to HR. And that's the amount of people that are people, not good at numbers, studied psychology or a language, and then went into HR as their full-time career and loved it. I'm like, that's me. And so when I kind of hit that tune of everyone is saying the same thing, that was the path I went. And so on a whim, I went and I got my master's degree from the University of South Carolina, a state that I've hardly ever been to. Wisconsin to South Carolina is a huge move. And I took that leap, and don't be afraid to take that leap in your career because you never know what'll lead you. Go with your gut sometimes. And I did that, and it was the best decision I've ever made. I love my time in South Carolina. I'm actually getting married later this year. A few of those guys are going to be in my wedding party standing next to me. So I have some really good connections. And I just love the program. And it really increased my pay and my career trajectory. It gave me a purpose. And I'm very fortunate for that. Then I'll fast forward, I landed a role at Thermo Fisher Scientific where they had me rotating around. And that was another kind of nugget of advice I'd say try to get experiences, especially in HR. There's no such thing as a waste of your time. Even if it's going through a mindless spreadsheet, there's something to learn from it. And so for me, I maximized a rotational program where I bounced around the country and I bounced around the company and different disciplines of HR. I technically had 7 roles in 2 years in a development program. It was an amazing opportunity. I got to see California, I got to see North Carolina, and then Boston, where I am now. It's where I ended up. So I really enjoyed that and I'm very fortunate for it. Then, out of the blue, after working a few years at Thermo Fisher Scientific, I learned my role was impacted, and that was devastating for me. I thought I bet everything on HR, and this is what I wanted to do, and then to learn, yep, it's not working out. That was tough. And so, on a whim, I had actually already applied for the Lego group because I'm like, sure, I'll apply for the Lego group. It was a cool job, and I got it. And shortly after being laid off, within a few months, I started up this role now. And it just goes to show you're never going to be able to figure out what life will give you, but you just kind of got to roll with the punches. And at the end of the day, can you live with kind of how you've navigated the situation? And that's something that kind of sticks with me, let's say. So, through a lot of that, as I ramble on and on here, is that just don't be afraid to take that leap in your career. Get those experiences early. It's better to do something and learn you absolutely hate it than to have done absolutely nothing at all and sit on it and be indecisive. That's kind of how I've shaped my career and how I'll continue to do it for years to come.
Earlier, you said that you are having to unfortunately close a Lego facility that's impacting some people's jobs. And the way you're going about doing that is influenced by what happened to you at Thermo Fisher. I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. And I think it's one of the reasons why I couldn't have made a better job description for myself. When I saw the one at Lego Group, I just jumped right on it. It's two parts. It's helping set up a site in Arizona, so relocating people across the country, which I've done, I think, 4 moves in the last few years. And so I can definitely speak to how it feels like to put your entire life in a car around the country for the company for a while but then closing the site as well. And that really hits home for me because these are some people that are very tenured, very passionate folks in the customer service team. consumer shopper engagement team. And for them to kind of learn that the site is closing, it's devastating. But I can speak to that because I really cared deeply about my last role. And so I've been in a similar bucket. Granted, I had about 2 weeks to kind of get out the door. They've had a few years. And so I figured we have some time. How can I make the most of it? So let's cut all the crap that, normally HR people do in this situation. I know what you actually want. I know you want to hear, how can I update my resume? What are the actions and the steps I need to do? Walk me through the severance process. But then also just giving them space to vent and recognize that no, we're not going to try to force them to be happy and everything. Like they're going to have feelings and let them express that, but in their own way. And so we've created some support groups where HR leadership is not in it. They can just be themselves. And I think helping people process that has been a passion project of mine. But recognizing I'm not perfect and trying to open it up to this is how I would approach it. This is just my thought. Let me know if you have any other thoughts or ideas. It's tough though to close down a site that's been open for, I want to say almost 50 years. And some
Mm.
people on average have been there about 12 years. So like I get at in the beginning of this interview is it's rewarding, I would say, to be working with people directly. It's tough though to kind of have to tell someone and have some of these topics, but I think I'm one of the best people for it, and it gives me motivation when I wake up each day to kind of do better each and every day.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that. I want to talk about how Lawrence still informs your work today. What did you learn here that still helps you do your job? And also, is there something you wish Lawrence had told you or taught you that they didn't?
Now, Plato's Republic, I use it every single day. I do in my own way. What did Lawrence give me? What have they taught me? Critical thinking, I think, is the go-to. And I guess the best example of that is when I was in graduate school, I'll be the first to admit I didn't know half of these HR things. I didn't know the difference between getting fired and laid off. And I
Mm.
remember sitting in a meeting like with a room of people that studied HR, had done HR for like 10, 15 years. Like, I don't know this crap. But at the same time, in the same project, we talk about, well, we have to open up a fake call center in India. How do you approach this? What are some considerations? And I'm like, well, I have like 5 or 6 people I know from India or the area around it that I've worked with that I was friends with at Lawrence. I can call them up right now. All the other people are like, well, we have to look at our profit loss revenue and everything like that. Well, no, what about the cultural component? How do people think in that? And I think that's what Lawrence provided me. I was not necessarily an expert in business, but what Lawrence did give me was that multidisciplinary approach. You have a problem, you need to open up a call center. I came at it from a different way that had me thinking outside the box. Was I right all the time? No, far from it, but I was able to at least get out of my bucket and out of my shell and kind of think about that a little bit more. I think that's one of the benefits of the liberal arts education in Lawrence. During my time at Lawrence, I was a psych Spanish double major with a minor in entrepreneurship, who also took photography and religious studies. Like all of those classes and experiences helped bring a different perspective than I would say people that normally go through the business HR route, which is they're doing accounting and finance classes and business strategy. So I really appreciated that. And I think more than anything was the social experience at Lawrence. Like I said earlier, I was in charge of the Cultural Food Club, political open debates. I was also the chair of the Residence Life Committee, and I was sitting on like Lawrence University Native Americans, Luna. I had so many different things. And with all of that, I learned how to deal with people, the good, the bad, and the ugly, how to organize an event, an initiative, how to shape a budget, all of that, which I'm very grateful for. And that was huge in my Lawrence education and really what drove me to HR. Now, some of the things I wish I learned a little bit more of, and I think this has changed with Lawrence, is how to speak the language of business. I think Lawrence does an excellent job of teaching you a whole ton of different things but not really going in depth. And at my time there, it was entrepreneurship was helpful, but I feel like we only scratched the surface of what it means to kind of know the difference between gross and net profit, or what a share buyback really means, or just understanding how X global events can influence a larger business's strategy. We didn't necessarily do that in-depth route. And so that's one thing I wish I had learned, and it sounds like there's a lot more opportunities now at Lawrence for that, which I'm grateful for. I would say that's one of my biggest ones. And then just reading the Wall Street Journal. That was not really encouraged enough, I'd say, and just understanding business. I know you and Grace quite a bit at the Career Center. I feel like I was one of the only people, and I felt like I was kind of the nerd that sophomore, junior year, I'm going to the Career Center to kind of talk about what my career is and my internship. I felt like I was kind of out of the norm. And I hope that that culture has kind of shifted a bit to recognizing you should get an internship your sophomore, junior year, because that will really help you set yourself up for success. So that's one of the things I wish I'd learned.
What do you think the next step is for you? Where do you see your career going?
That's a great question, and one I'll talk with my boss in my annual review next week. I honestly, I've grown so much and I've had such a varied career that I'm really happy to have found an organization with the Lego group that I feel like I can just kind of settle down. I can ease into a role and really master that role in the company a lot more. Like I said earlier, I had moved every 8 months for a few years. I was in graduate school. I was doing marketing for a bit at Lawrence. I finally feel like I have a sense of stability in my life. I'm getting married soon, so I really want to focus on that personal life. And I think I'm in a good organization that really prioritizes that work-life balance and having a family, but will still offer me a really challenging career field. Specifically, I'd like to stay down the HR business partner role to see where that will lead because I think there's a huge enriching career in there. But if there's detours along the way, such as talent development or training, high level project management or data analytics, I'm open to it. And I think that's one of the things I like about my current organization that I feel like I can kind of explore those routes and just kind of hunker down and then just kind of keep growing with this organization.
Well, since I have a human resources person with me here right now, I'm going to take advantage of your knowledge for this question just because we're in a very tough job market right now as the class of 26 gets set to graduate. It's going to be a real challenge for finding employment for a lot of folks. What do you think are some ways this year's class can stand out and catch a recruiter's eye?
And that's a very fair question. And I try to do my best to keep track of, the unemployment rate and everything and where the jobs are at. What I tell people is figure out what you want to do first and foremost. You can talk when you talk to someone, you're networking with someone, you can tell when they don't know where they want to go or what they want to be in life. And that's fine. I've been there too. But someone gave me some really good advice a few years ago that just pick a role. 20 years from now, I'm going to be a vice president of HR with a multinational organization. Boom, that's it. Or 20 years from now, I want to have my PhD and, chair a very large academic committee at a prestigious university. Plan on that. Recognize though, you're going to eventually one day potentially more than likely throw that out the window and have to pivot your career. But at least having that goal will figure out, okay, now what skills, experiences, organizations do I need to have in order to get to that point? And in doing that, you'll start to develop your journey and that will give you a purpose. And also part of that is figure out your brand. For me, I like to think I'm a little chaotic, a little quirky. When I did my job interviews, to get to where I am today, I told people that I have this liberal arts degree. I have done 7 different internships. I've worked in all these different organizations. I speak Spanish. I love tea. That's my brand, and that's, wow, I remember that guy. And so when I think about all the people I've interviewed, I don't remember all of their different skills and resumes. I remember how they made me feel, and I
Mhm.
remember what those key nuggets of information they said were. Those are the biggest takeaways. So that's important. Another thing too, I put in there, use AI as a tool, not a shortcut. Like it makes a big difference. When you're applying to roles in this day and age, you are going to miss out if you're not using AI in some way, but quality over quantity. I see a lot of folks at all levels in their career panicking and, well, I have to keep up with AI, so I'm going to apply to 100 jobs today. You're probably going to get 100 rejections or maybe 99 rejections in one interview that will lead to rejection. Focus on a job you want that you're qualified for. And one thing that I also put in a nugget for, which maybe others, experts in the field disagree with me, I think in this day and age with digital applications, it's more important to apply quickly and to be first for a higher volume rec than it is to get a referral. I think a lot of people will focus more on, well, I gotta send a note to someone, I gotta network, I gotta get that referral. In my personal experience, I had multiple referrals and I almost never got interviews from them. Where I did get interviews was when I was one of the first applicants within the first 24 hours. So my recommendation to folks is still get the referral. Apply right away. If you see on LinkedIn a job was posted less than 24 hours ago and you like it, apply for it. Make a good resume, make a good cover letter, jump on it, and then reach out and network with people and say, hey, I'm interested to learn more about the organization. And in the course of that, if you can get a referral, even better. You can always get the person can get a referral bonus after the fact. The biggest point is getting your name there first. And I bring that up because I work with recruiters that say, I posted this job a week ago and I have 1,000 applicants.
Yeah.
Even using AI, 500 of them will qualify. All right, well, where do I go? I'm going to start at the top of the list.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, you get enough 100 applicants, that's more than enough. So recognizing that's a way to stand out. I think those are some of my biggest pieces of advice for people applying. And then finally, just give yourself grace. It's a tough job market. You're going to find something, but you got to keep at it and you got to keep true to yourself and what that brand is.
That part about applying right away, that's interesting you said that because I've probably read at least three articles saying that in the last couple of weeks, just because of the volume. Like you said, you just start with the people who applied first, and once you've got a decent number who appear qualified from the top of the list, that recruiters just stop. Yeah, yeah, that's good advice. So thanks for that. I'm sure people will appreciate hearing that from a recruiter and somebody in your role. Anything else you think our students, our listeners should know from you that I haven't asked about yet before we wrap things up?
I'll end on this is that I'm probably butchering the stat in some way and probably misconstruing it, but it's something that gives me comfort, especially as someone that, I'll be honest, struggled to kind of land on my feet for the first few years after I graduated from Lawrence. We have liberal arts majors have some of the highest rates of unemployment. Trying to figure out a job is hard for liberal arts majors right out of school. But I take comfort in the fact of knowing that later on, the people that stick with it, that really grow their careers, end up running the world one day. There's some percentage out there that CEOs or board members or high-level politicians have liberal arts degrees by like a disproportionate amount in a good way. And that because we have this approach, it's at first, someone that studied business and HR, they're going to be more qualified for your HR role. They're going to know how an HRIS system works. They're going to know what that even means more than a Lawrence student. So we have a little bit of a learning curve to make up. But once you get your foot in the door somewhere and just try to get your foot in the door somewhere, then that's when you can really show your chops in your liberal arts education and really start to grow your career. And I think that's what's given me comfort. And I think I'm an example of that is you just got to stick with it. You got to work hard. You got to find ways to sell yourself and to make yourself a valuable employee. And later on in your career, you'll be rewarded for it. And I think that's where I take some comfort in there is find yourself. So things you could do now, do online certifications, network with people. For me, read the Wall Street Journal, understand what $100 barrels of oil can mean for a different organization that you're applying for a fashion industry, for the Lego group. What do those things mean? Stay curious, and eventually it'll work out. So I'll end with that.
Ryan Aiello from the Lawrence class of 2018. Congratulations on your upcoming nuptials, and thank you for joining
Thank you.
us on the Career Center podcast.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.